All right, well, first of all, let me disclose I've had a little bit to drink because basically, yeah, at the moment, I'm probably an alcoholic. But I'm still functional, so I don't think entirely diagnosable. But yeah, probably going to have to do a little detox here soon or something. But don't get me wrong, that's only so I can start over again because that's the fun part. But, well, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's again, it's more like it's 2:16, and I was playing with some music. I had a friend that made a music track, and I'm adding stuff to it, and got however far, and so a couple drinks, and suddenly it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I said I was going to talk about Zimmerman. I decided everything I was going to say earlier. Well, you know, generally speaking, because it's pretty easy. Okay, one, he was on Hannity, which I don't really pay attention as this stuff's coming along, and I kind of rely on the web. That in the old days, something was going to be on TV, you had to pay attention. When's it going to be on? That was it. You weren't going to see it again. Um, Now I kind of rely on the internet, and you can always get stuff. But yeah, so I heard about it. I figured, hey, there's probably a late episode of Hannity, and I guess there's another hour tomorrow. That was I was surprised. What the fuck is going on? I couldn't believe O'Mara let Zimmerman do this, or wanted him to, or I just couldn't believe it. Because Zimmerman's saying all kinds of things now. Everything. It seems to me like I am not a lawyer, but I understand logic. I also sort of get the legal system, in the sense that I understand what I disagree with it, and that it works its way, and it doesn't matter that I disagree. Like it'll try to figure out intent, and some of the things, well, oh, that kind of makes sense, but the other things are like, well, you can't really do. And then I also see that in the court system, you have to have something pragmatic, right? Like if you say, well, you can't read people's mind and know their true intent, well, that's what I believe, but how are you going to have a justice system? Well, I think there is too much judgment of intent. I think people should be more or less punished for what they did, not what they were thinking at the time that they did it. That sounds like a thought crime to me. And in that case, I would have a legal system if I was the one writing it where, you followed an unarmed teenager into the dark and he wasn't committing a felony and killed him. Okay, you're fucked. Life in jail. It'd be basically murder too. Um, I could. It's not intent. It's related. It seems to be related to intent. But if you want to go to murder one, yeah, if there was evidence that he planned to, I'm going to kill some kid in the next couple days because I've had enough of those kids walking through here, then yeah, that would be a different crime, but not because of his intent, but because of the planning aspect, like Rico statute kind of, well, look, there's a certain sort of criminal organization going on, right? So you could have discriminations. You might still have murder one, murder two, and manslaughter. Um, because, manslaughter is sort of, I don't know how to, semi-accidental. It's like I got in a fist fight with the guy and then I got a little bit too excited and beat him to death. I was supposed to be more careful. Manslaughter, at least old school style. So anyway, look at this motherfucker has got his. O'Mara is okay with this. Doomtin Smiley Joe. Look at this shit. It's not to be mistaken with the .org version. Romney Zimmerman, the real George Zimmerman by Curiosity page. That's different. I know it's easy to confuse. No, this is the .com. He's not a .org thing. He's a .com, a .commercial. He's a commercial entity, famous. Gonna do a talk show. He should probably do a left-right talk show type thing with Sarah Palin, and you know, they could have guests like Michelle Malkin and Bachman. I don't know if I got that name before last right. Who was that? Michelle Malkin, that crazy, crazy Asian girl. I mean, woman. I mean, woman, of course, being a feminist. I mean, she's a great girl that I wouldn't want to call a woman. I mean, well, whatever. Rumors and lies. He's got da da da. No PayPal. I don't think. It's sort of like send a check. But he does have a Twitter, so that should be interesting. Now, Talk Left is a site here. It's sort of supposedly left-leaning. I think Geraldine's thing is that she is a defense-oriented, like Dershowitz. She's like Dershowitz. Maybe she even likes Dershowitz. She believes, probably like Dershowitz has said before, that 10 guilty people should walk and go free. An injustice, we admit it, that should happen, rather than one innocent person goes to jail. We can handle the risk of a few extra guilty people. Maybe they'll get caught next time, I know, says Alan Dershowitz. It is a danger. But putting one innocent person in jail is not legitimate in any way at all. And I agree with him as an individualist. And I agree with him in general. It's just that George is guilty, you know. And the actual defense lawyers are really like, in order to accomplish that, I will defend 100% of them. You know what I mean? I think that's where Geraldine's coming from, because, I mean, she's a Democrat. And a liberal. So, yeah, she's definitely not doing it out of racism. Now, she says, thanks to Big Tent Democrat for putting up a thread on George Zimmerman's interview on Sean Hannity's show tonight. Now, let me tell you, just for disclosure, Big Tent Democrat is a man named Armando. He is a lawyer in Puerto Rico. I have started websites with this man and talked to him a great deal. He was my foil but also partner. Yeah, I have this habit of finding somebody that's a foil. I mean, we'd have huge arguments. People at Daily Kos where this was going on, you know, thought we were bitter enemies. And in reality, we were like the dog and the coyote and the, if you know, this somewhat rare subset of the Warner Brother cartoons where the sheepdog and the coyote have their back and forth over a bunch of sheep. It's a great, and the coyote is the coyote from the Roadrunner, and it's a much better use of the coyote. And at the end of the day, they clock in and clock out. And they're like, "How you doing, Ted?" And then the rest of the time they're doing Roadrunner and coyote. Only it's sheepdog and coyote, and it's much better than the Roadrunner because I hate that Roadrunner. I hate the fucking Roadrunner. You know that isn't the same Roadrunner in every one of those cartoons, right? Most of the time the coyote was eating the fuck out of that Roadrunner, but they didn't want to show that to kids. That's not funny, so they showed the times that he had a few mess-ups. You know, it's like showing when a chemical solution blows up and there's a fire in the lab. It is funny. It's like a bloopers. It's like the coyote's bloopers. But somebody should make the cartoon of the coyote just killing the fuck out of them, because that's normally what happened. On the other hand, the dog sheep thing is totally different. Anyway, I digress. What was this about? Zimmerman? Okay. So I know this guy. And I set up sites with him, and for example, one with the conservative who helped start Red State, if you know about Red State. And yeah, I like when I read Nietzsche, he says, "Hey, you know, your enemies define you. Who you have as an enemy it's a kind of a partner, antipode, partnerish enemy thing, and there's different kinds of struggles with different kinds of enemies, and in general, a person with their shit together intellectually is going to not demonize necessarily their enemy, but might have some, you know." Well, some sort of bond, and I'm expressing that as you have the fact that you agree with the issue being important, that you disagree on, you know, what you should do about the issue, but you agree that it should be talked about, and you generate conversation and this kind of thing. And so, especially in the public dialogue, you're generating these conversations. And so yeah, I mean, that's a recurring thing for me. But she still is like, he was genuine on Hannity. Here's her points. He didn't realize Trayvon had been hit by his bullet. He didn't find out he was dead until an hour after he arrived at the police station. Holy shit. Yeah, that was some amazing shit right there. What was that about? Okay, look. It's a contact or near contact shot. Like, if it wasn't pressed up against his skin, well, it was up against his hanging, garments. I mean, that's the only way to explain the intermediate and contact kind of thing. Though the latest thing I read, I thought was pretty much like cleared it up that no, it's contact. But whatever, contact with the hoodie, for example. So, how the fuck do you do a contact shot or a dead center shot a couple inches away from a guy's chest, dead center, and you don't know you hit him? Well, I'll tell you why. Because you're crazy. You need to go to that place where one of the guys thinks that he's Moses, and another one thinks that he's Abe Lincoln, and another one thinks that he's a fish, and George Zimmerman can be the one that thinks he's Jack Webb. Okay, she says he wouldn't do anything. I haven't read this before, by the way. I just decided to read it on here. He wouldn't do anything different with respect to what happened after the shooting. He's not asking for an attorney. She is so I cannot believe she bought this thing. This is his excuse at the end of the first part of the interview. Anyway, his not asking for an attorney, his cooperation with police, his taking the voice stress test, etc. While he wouldn't have done anything different as to the events with Trayvon that night, he rejects that he should have stayed in the car. He is sorry that Trayvon was killed. He wishes there was something that would have resulted in his not having to take Trayvon's life. Oh, this is a funny one because he clarifies this. He what you would call clarifies this towards the end of the interview when Hannity's asking him a totally different question. But when Hannity said, do you regret getting out of the car? Do you regret any of those steps along the way? He said very clearly, no, God's plan. And I sat there for a goddamn 30 minutes or something before he said, oh, wait, John, let me say what I meant is I thought you were asking me if I regretted talking to him without a lawyer and stuff. Well, Hannity was pretty clear, and sympathetically so, and not tricky in any way about what he was asking. The similar thing was, at the same, cleanup comment at the end when he'd been thinking, oh, that didn't sound good. What was it? He was talking about, Hannity asked if in the time afterwards that he'd had to reflect, and so on. And he said, I didn't have time to reflect. No, I didn't really reflect. I hadn't really had time to reflect. And then right after he's like, and of course I had a lot of time in solitary to think about things and, and reflect on things. Oh. And with Hannity, one of the funniest, peculiarest things is when Hannity is asking him about the following, and he's like, well, you said you were following him. And he said, well, no, I wasn't following him. I said I was following him because I was going in his same general direction, which is what Serino had told him following means. So now George has admitted that that's what George thinks following is. No, I wasn't following. I was just going, and you call that following sometimes or whatever. And he said, yeah. And it's like, think about it. The dispatcher, non-emergency guy, he says, are you following? George says yes, and he says you don't need to do that. And George reinterprets the meaning of following. You understand? Whatever following means, whatever it means, George had said yes, he's doing it, and whatever it means, George has just said, okay, I won't. But instead of that, George is like, "Are you following?" And he says, "No. I mean, yes. We don't need you to do that. Okay." And then he does the same exact behavior. The behavior even George would call following, and thinks of it as not following. I don't know. I guess Geraldine might be as crazy defense oriented, just as a counselor, because I don't get this. But it's just like Alan Dershowitz. But it is annoying. I mean, it's like bleeding heart liberals don't annoy me, but this idea of making excuses for guilty people. I mean, I agree somebody needs to be there to advocate for them and sort of do that, but I don't know. Some of this is silly. He wasn't following Trayvon. He was walking from where he parked his car to Retreat View Circle so he could get a number with the street to give police. Yeah, she's just a defense attorney type. This makes no sense. He wasn't following. He called that type of behavior following, just like Serino told him that is following. He's not a racist. That's an interesting thing. Not hating all black people. You don't have to hate all black people to be racist, I think. Racism is when you use an unjustified racial characteristic to make an assumption. It's not racist for a doctor to say, "Hey, this guy's African American. I will check him for sickle cell anemia," or some other thing that is genetic or common in their community, say. But if it's an unfounded racial idea, like this guy's black, there was a black criminal, thus this guy's a criminal, that's not logical. That's unfounded. And it's based on a false racial premise. We call that racism. So that's undetermined and also immaterial. Who cares? He killed a kid. That's what I'm concerned of. He's not on trial for being racist. That's fucking moronic. I see. The thing is, I know Geraldine is not moronic, and I'm starting to have to think that for how moronic this is, it's not moronic. This is defense attorney think right here. This is like Dershowitz, I understand and know better. He's smart. He knows his thing. His job is to defend the defendants. And when he makes commentary and is not hired, he still does that. That's his thing. I guess that's what her thing is. But I can't believe she stays this with... part of the thing of a defense attorney, though, is they're supposed to keep... there has to be a logical... For me to respect that defense, that unequivocal defense, there has to be a logical argument. You don't invent arguments just because it's mud. And to me, this sounds like mud, but whatever. I'm not saying I don't respect her, obviously. I just praise that. I know she's smart. She must be just incredibly defense-oriented. I haven't been reading this blog very much, over the years, but until this, I'm starting to read it for their Zimmerman stuff. He prays for Trayvon's parents daily. Sean Hannity did not offer to pay his attorney fees. So who was that he was talking about? Or was he lying about Sean Hannity? Ooh, that gets to be fun. See, using initials isn't good, because if you just use the name, then it's the name and you just have to face that. But if you use initials, and if you want to have a code, you should use a different name, and it shouldn't be Mickey Mouse or Peter Pan. You are a moron, George Zimmerman, and I can see how you're sending yourself down. I cannot believe you went on for a 2-hour interview. You have contradicted yourself yet again and stuck with the wrong part of the story. See, that's the thing. He should have been changing. If he wants to make a credible lie and get away with this shit, he needs to be changing his story, honing in on what he now knows about the witnesses. But he's still sticking to his shit. That dropped right away. I mean, I don't know how Amara can sit there and think that that's going to stand, except for that maybe Amara knows, look, it's never going to stand in court. We're going to have to get technicality out or something, and he just knows that. So it's like, let's go out. Let's just make this guy look so crazy. Everybody gets a bias against him for looking so crazy, and you can actually get the shit thrown out sometimes that way. Maybe that's his... I can't imagine he's doing that, but just trash George's reputation. Let George lie and trash his own reputation and get him off, because people will get so pissed at him they will say crazy stuff like the judge, and he'll be able to appeal forever until one judge says, holy shit, we've had enough of this. But I can't imagine Zimmerman getting off if he does that because it's so famous. It'll go all the way to the Supreme Court. No, because it's not a federal offense. Just kidding, kids. But the Florida Supreme Court, that's a fun one. Oh my God, that would be great. Yeah, let's get another. We haven't had any big thing in the Florida Supreme Court national wise ever since they kerfosed our whole fucking nation with their stupid election. Okay. Sorry. Not really for that diversion. Why is that even important? I don't believe that. No, I do believe that. I'm sorry. Because this is the other thing. We had this video where, like, Man or someone, or maybe it was just something I saw at the treehouse, showed a TED talk by somebody talking about, showing clips of these tells, these little smirks that, like, psychopaths have when they're deceiving. It's an emotional supply people that enjoy deceiving get. And oh my God, it was funny to have that because that was in my mind just because of this thing. And then I'm watching this interview and he did a lot of, well, like, no, I'm sorry, smile, just like in the phone calls of, yeah, everything's great with his friend Scott. Sean Hannity did not offer to pay his attorney fees. We covered that. His father had recently had a heart attack. So sad. If he did something wrong, he'd apologize. Well, we know that's not true. FBI cleared him of racism. Yeah, well, I don't know. That sounds a little hyperbolic. I doubt that's necessarily over. O'Mara, but I don't think it was racism per se, right? O'Mara, no evidence of second-degree murder. Stand your ground applies to this case, right? On the bond money, O'Mara won't let him answer. O'Mara doesn't let him respond to witness 9's allegations. Not worth the time and effort. What do you mean? That's a lie. He did respond to it. He totally responded to witness 9 allegations. Anyway, he believes the media owes him an apology. Fucking stupid. English is his second language. At the end, he looked into the camera and apologized to his wife, parents, grandmother. Oh, yeah, and Trayvon's parents. Yeah, his answers were consistent with his statements to police, Geraldine, but that's stupid. They shouldn't have been. He should have changed and be consistent with the witnesses. Well, seemed like this and it seemed like that, but it was like this. We stumbled. I think he shoved and pushed me for an hour. Yeah, but I guess he's not going to get away with that. No one should expect the answers to be identical. Yeah, this is fucking crazy. So yeah, website and yeah, I'm gonna have to read this. So my general opinion of it was he seemed nutsoid to me. That even monotone no matter what, and he's smiling in the totally inappropriate places, and he has some smirkinesses that are just, you know what, I'm gonna fucking watch this video. And comment on it. Holy shit. An hour-long Fox video and do that? Would that be wrong? How could I do that? I could, oh, I know how. I have it on my DVR. I can play it into the screen capture. Really, should I do that at 240? But those smirks, oh, maybe I'll do it tomorrow. Sounds a little crazy. I gotta start going to bed early, like 1:30. I can't believe there's another hour of that shit tomorrow. People think he did well. I really appreciate the Phylexicon going on about the character thing and about the look at these 3 houses thing. He does have kind of a cop mentality, but it's a good one. It's an honest one thing, like where it doesn't really matter if he's racist. The facts start coming up, you know. And to me, I'm like skeptical in the world enough that it's like, hey, you can't really say that's a better person just because they keep their yard better. Obviously not. I mean, maybe they're worse people and they're just obsessive compulsive. But you go and look, are they obsessive compulsive? Are they this or that? And it does add up in terms of criminal justice to totally beyond a reasonable doubt. You know, and the things he's saying about she probably took care of her son. You know, she probably they do seem responsible enough people like all of us, you know. And to nitpick is crazy when you have a really terrible environment. It's obviously terrible. That's what makes it so terrible. It's just less like this is obviously terrible. And I appreciate him doing that because I can't really. I mean, I've said it. I called him a little half man and stuff. I tried to throw it out there, but I'm just too relativist because, you know, in the end, like I'm probably more sympathetic than a lot of people towards Zimmerman in the sense that I think he's guilty. But like I was saying earlier, you know, it's I don't believe in innocent by reason of insanity. I believe guilty by reason of insanity. That makes a motive, an artificial, just a motive to do any crazy thing. That's what insanity to me means in law. It should mean, I mean.